President Trump says the economy is roaring, and the numbers back him up. Welcome to the Big Money Show. I'm Dagan McDowell, along with my co-hosts Lou Bassanese, Brian Bremberg, Jackie DeAngelis, and with us for this hour. I was going to say just 1 hour, but why couldn't it be two?
Yeah.
Marcus Lemonis, host of The Fixer. IBM and Micron both announcing multi-billion-dollar investments here in the United States.
The economy is roaring, the incomes are rising, and small business confidence is at the highest level in over a decade. So the confidence levels, which means something. They think over the last 10 years, I don't think they go beyond that. We have the highest level of confidence in our economy.
And according to new Treasury analysis, President Trump's economic policies are putting the U.S. on track to narrow the budget deficit. The president's sweeping tax cuts will save nearly $190 billion next year for you, about $1,000 for the average filer. All of this is despite a 22-day government shutdown. So riddle me this. If you've been out of work for 3 weeks and literally nobody notices, are you really that important and necessary? Marcus, big picture.
Wait. What are you about the necessary? You're asking if I'm necessary?
I was gonna pivot.
Oh, okay.
But you're welcome to talk about anything you would like. But you, better than anyone sitting here, have your hand and arms around the pulse of the consumer. Is the economy just roaring?
No, it's not.
Why not?
Well, the consumer is still under a lot of pressure, and households are still under a lot of pressure. And I agree that there are parts of the economy that are doing better, and I agree that the deficit spread is shrinking because all of the cash that's come in from tariffs is now sitting on the shelf on products and offsetting some of that. I think the biggest debate that I have with what the president said is that the small business confidence is at a 10-year high. I'm sorry to say that is categorically false. Small business owners are more concerned than they've ever been about the cost of goods coming to them. The cost of labor in this market is frightening to them. Their ability to get money from banks is tighter than it's been in a while. That doesn't mean that they're running for the hills, but it's not the highest it's been in 10 years.
Not just to stay on this, what needs to change then?
Interest rates have to come down.
Well, that's on deck, is it not?
Yeah.
Well, it's philosophically on deck, but it categorically needs to happen. And we're not talking about a quarter of a point here or there. We're talking about we need a full 1 point reduction at some point within the next 12 months for businesses to really start roaring, for capital expenditures to start leaving CEOs' desks with signatures. I think until that happens, hiring's on hold, capital expenditures are on hold, unless you're being incentivized to do so.
Anybody jump in here, take the ball, run with it.
I will agree with you.
Sorry, I don't mean to. I'm leaning out of frame. So do a wide shot so you get both me and Lou in the same shot.
You want me to lean in?
No. But as I go to you or as you take the ball, look at the 10-year Treasury.
What I was going to say. Under 4%.
Right. So, Jackie, you go. And
Let me
Lou.
just go with that because investors are buying stocks and bonds at the same time. I don't dispute the fact that small businesses are uncertain. They're feeling the pinch from tariffs. They don't know what's going to happen. I get that, and I understand that they're backbone of the U.S. economy. But there are bright spots in the economy as well. When you've got investors and they're buying stocks, they have confidence in earnings season. Corporate earnings have been robust. We haven't seen guidance that has been too protective of what is to come on the horizon. And you've got that 10-year going under 4%. I think that was a pretty critical move to make. Basically, you've got investors saying we have confidence in U.S. Treasuries, we have confidence in the stock market, and we think that all the pieces of the president's plan, albeit maybe not happening all at once, will come together in a better picture that ultimately probably down the line will help that small business investor too. We highlighted the tax savings from the Big Beautiful Law at the top there. Dagan, you did that. Corporate tax savings as well. You have the tariff revenues that are on the table. I know they're not enough to cure all, but they're not insignificant. And most of all, you've got other companies countries investing in the United States. It's going to take a little while to pay off. We talked about the consumer and gas prices yesterday, oil well under $60 a barrel. These are all positive signs that the picture is starting to work.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said. I think the distinction is between investors and operators, a snapshot in time now to what we're looking in the future. I would tell you, if you look at the map of the U.S., and GDP growth is off the charts because of AI, but if you look state by state, about 20 to 25 states are actually in an economic recession. And the engine of this economy has always been small businesses. They now have clarity on most tariffs, but to Marcus's point, we need more, because if you look at job openings, they're concentrated heavily in small businesses, right? We're not finding the right labor, whether it's too expensive or not qualified. We need to see these policies come into effect and interest rates go down to have this engine take off. But I would agree with you. The outlook is optimistic. There's hope on the horizon. These policies need to take root. But the question remains, is there something out there, a risk that we're not thinking about? Is it private credit? Is it another geopolitical conflict that we're unaware of? I think that could really sabotage the underpinnings of what's starting.
Are you rooting for the Supreme Court to strike down the tariffs?
No. I think it creates too much chaos. I'm rooting for the Supreme Court to normalize the cadence, which they can't, but normalize the cadence in which tariffs are being levied. You see manufacturers
They can't do that. They have no role in that.
India, China, this place, that place. You just can't keep up. You can't move your manufacturing fast enough. And in order to stay in business, you have to take on product. If the tariffs get struck down, and this idea that everybody's going to get a refund check is fine, I think it just puts total chaos out there. The tariffs are not a bad thing principally. They are a bad thing when they're not predictable.
Yeah.
So would you rather them be done? You know, we've debated whether he should have done them through IEPA, which is what he's done, and that's allowed him to kind of move all around. Or you could do them through these other sections of the code, 201, 232, 301, where you've got to kind of make your case over time and then do them. Would you prefer to see the tariffs done that way and not through IEPA, which is what's going to the Supreme Court?
I would prefer to see them done in a way where you don't have to find 19 loopholes to get one in place, and it doesn't change every hour. As a business is forecasting cash and inventory, how are they making decisions? The biggest concern I have with the economy is not tariffs. You're going to start to see CEOs and boardrooms tell people that there's going to be a dramatic reduction in labor because of AI.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because there was a note yesterday from Jan Hatzius at Goldman Sachs. And according to his analysis, this is the worst job market or outlook outside of a recession in 50 years. And let me just dig in a tad into this. So, and we heard this from Kevin Hassett yesterday, second quarter GDP growth, and then what's expected for the third quarter is the economic growth running like almost 4%. But according to Goldman Sachs, that the shutdown is kind of masking somewhat. The missing data from the shutdown is masking what's really going on, along with weakening labor trends. The labor outlook in surveys like manufacturing and service growth has fallen well below the midpoint of 50, consistent with employment stagnation or even contraction. Household surveys are already very negative, and the expected change in the unemployment rate over the next year has never been this bad outside recessionary periods since the University of Michigan started asking the question in 1978.
Yeah.
So what the GDP is telling you might not be correct.
GDP, at this level of GDP, we should be adding 263,000 jobs per month. We're adding an average about 35,000.
Right. Close.
3 out of the last 13 job prints have been negative job growth. So the labor market is not in a great place. The question becomes, is this another technological innovation like we've seen with the computer, the dot-com era, electricity, that leads to some creative destruction in jobs and then new job openings? Because we've seen that. Productivity gains, the last technological innovations go from about 1%, 1.5% average up to 3 to 3.5%. We haven't seen that kick in yet. It's the big question mark that's out there for AI.
But that's not a government regulatory policy story. That's just a bet on productivity story that businesses are making. So tariffs don't affect that. You could say interest rates affect it maybe because companies might borrow more and hire more, but I doubt it, actually. You've got the policy environment, you've got AI, and those are separate, except I would argue if you get a lot of growth in the economy, that's how you facilitate the transition from the jobs where they're not hiring people anymore to new parts of the economy that are growing because of it. So that's why the Trump agenda matters so much.
The onshoring of manufacturing is what's going to drive the job, I think, fill.
It's the supply side incentives in the Trump agenda, which were huge the first round, and they've got to be as big this second round, I think, to help cushion the blow of AI.
Here's where they clash, though. Look at the gubernatorial race in New Jersey over electricity rates, right? You have AI competing with Main Street for resources, and this is where these policies intersect because you had too many years of green initiatives that drove up costs, and now AI is looking as the enemy for competing against electricity costs. So I think that there's a cross-section.
In blue states, they're artificially keeping those costs high because they're still investing in
100%.
their idiotic policies.
Yeah.
So if they could work around that, people would find a lot of relief, which is one of the things Chitterelli is running on. Can I just go back to one thing on the small business side? Because my mom is in a small business. She imports from Canada. We've talked about this many times. It's uncomfortable. It's not been pleasant. Her pricing has gone up. Regardless of what's been instituted or not, the anticipation of it has the suppliers bringing the prices up. She is not passing it on to consumers. She is eating it. She's managed so far. It doesn't feel good. But I think most small businesses, we've talked about people who've lost jobs or businesses that have had to fold. I think most small businesses will find a way to, because they're scrappy and they believe it. My mom believes in the president, and she believes that somehow all of this will come together and this period of discomfort will eventually ease. And so, it doesn't feel good.
There's a potential solution. If I was running the SBA today, I would try to come up with some sort of tax incentive that allowed the tariffs that came on the products that I had to have some sort of extra carve out of some kind, some sort of incentive of some kind, because your mother's business, much like other small businesses, were profitable on the fringes already.
Yeah.
And any erosion of margin, particularly in a blue state where now labor prices are at $15, $20, $25 an hour, it's just a math equation. There isn't enough demand and the labor costs too much. And so when you add tariffs to it, it takes away all the margin. Give these small businesses some workaround where the tariffs exist, and I don't know what it is.
I hear you on that. The other thing, though, that I would add is the 2017 tax cut extension permanence that came in the big, beautiful law. That was set to go away. That has helped them. If that went away...
You have to have income.
Whoa.
You have to have income
Yes.
for tax cuts to matter.
But are you saying, the data I see says that companies and small businesses, large businesses, it's aggregated, are absorbing 51% of the tariffs, right? It's not getting passed on.
No.
The question is, where is that fracture point where they say, I can't. They have to cry uncle, to your point, where,
now.
Yeah, it's happening, right? Because now we're getting that clarity, and I don't know what the mechanism is to provide some relief there, but consumers either have to get used to higher prices or there has to be some tax.
The rebates that we talked about for individuals, we're going to send everybody $2,000 or some crazy nonsense like that. That really, if you take a subset of that, is there a way to create some stimulus just for small businesses that meet some criteria?
Yeah.
One final thing. Oral arguments for the Supreme Court tariff case are November 5th.
Right.
When is the SHE meeting? I'm sorry, I'm getting my dates confused. Is it with the 1st or the 10th? Anybody?
I believe it's the first.
I thought it was the 1st also. Okay,
Before.
so it's before. There is also part of me that says some bunny is going to be pulled out of a hat on November 1st to kind of make the China situation all seem a lot better than it is before we even hear what the Supreme Court is going to do, which if they do issue the Trump administration a blow, but they've got their ducks in a row and things are kind of settled, it will be far better.
But would China want to do that? If I was China, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to wait until...
China's getting squeezed.
Wait.
China's economy is not in the greatest place.
Yeah, I know they're not, but they're
So-
communists too, so he can just tell these people...
It's a matter of days, so he could potentially wait 5 days.
No food
but-
for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no food for you.
But the shutdown led by the Democrats, that's putting the screws to small businesses
Yeah.
because anybody trying to get loans out of the Small Business Administration, it's like none for you because of Chuck Schumer and his ilk. But gold, what's going on with gold?
Let's look at that because gold has been defying gravity, but it's taken a little bit off now. $65 down today. It's a little bit more than a 1.5% move. It's falling for the second day, hitting record highs on Monday. So this is the biggest one-day sell-off that we've seen since 2013. And the big thing with gold, of course, David Asman brought it up yesterday, the way gold ran, for example, in the 70s, but then it crashed. Is this, we've talked about bubbles in all asset classes, Dagan. Is this a bubble in gold, and are we going to see that pop, or do we just keep marching higher. That report yesterday that Lydia did on silver prices and how much all the commodities have moved sort of puts it in perspective.
Yeah, you have to remember nowadays it's a lot easier to speculate in precious metals and silver and gold. You can do it through ETFs. You have levered ETFs. It's just there's a plethora of opportunities to do it. I think this turned into a momentum trade and not a fear and dollar debasement trade. And now you're seeing that volatility.
Nobody knows. They're going to tell you they know why gold ran up, and they're guessing.
I agree. Well,
You're guessing.
It's true.
Gold,
No, I'm serious.
gold bugs
Is it
never
a-
sell, though. So
Is it just a bubble?
Yeah.
Or is it
It's a-
debasement because the dollar is stabilized? So
Yeah,
Who
it's a
knows?
catch-up trade to some
All-
degree
I
because we
could-
had the runaway inflation. So the hedge for inflation didn't happen during the Biden era at 9.1% inflation.
I could make an argument that all of the major bubbles that we see, AI, gold, the homes, home buying, even crypto, it's fear gambling. It's like dread bubbles because you fear the future. And so you need to have an insurance policy today. You fear what's going to happen. You fear that the dollar's going to
Who's
be
not
the best.
buying it?
I'm not buying it.
Who's
Look,
not buying it?
Asman brought that
gold
up
has been a
yesterday.
fear, but Bitcoin is a FOMO trade because the world is changing.
David
and
Asman brought up the gold thing yesterday, and he
Yeah.
said it's this, put it under your mattress. You're afraid the world is going to implode. If we ever get to the point where you need your gold and you got to pull it under
You have a
from
big-
under the
big
mattress,
problem.
you have a much bigger problem.
By the way-
Thank you.
But there's a
If
whole
that-
industry,
in that situation.
the gold money show down in New Orleans has been running for 30 years, and there's a whole class of people that believe in that. But you can't shave off gold,
Here's why
bars to
that-
buy your coffee. Like that's
that
not plausible.
fear under your mattress thing that the world's coming to an end doesn't make any sense, because if you really fear the world coming to an end, you buy diamonds because you can hide them.
Worst thing
And
to buy
they're,
right now.
I
Worst
know
thing.
they're the worst thing. They're down raw diamonds 3 years, down 25% a 1 carat diamond because of the
Because of the
lab-grown
labs.
diamonds.
Yeah.
But you can move with them.
Yeah.
Like if you got to get out of Dodge, like New York City or the commies are taking over, you could hide them in your person. And you know what I'm talking about. But nobody's buying diamonds.
Do you have diamonds
Well, that's
on
why
you
the
right now?
Louvre thieves took jewelry instead of the Mona Lisa, because what are you going to do with her?
Yeah.
The diamonds are much easier to break apart,
Well,
polish
she's-
up, and then sell.
Well, she's
preppers?
behind.
Yeah.
She's
Preppers.
behind. But she's behind bulletproof glass. I would have picked like a Delacroix and cut it out of the frame and rolled it up and just pinned it up in my apartment.
You've been
But
watching Friends and Neighbors, haven't you?
No, I majored in art history. I know where the real
There's
value
no
is.
AI bubble, by the way.
Agreed.
Well, those AI data centers being financed with debt. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
Coming up, there's only one person who can stop a socialist takeover in the Big Apple, and he ain't budging. Stay here.